From the Open Season Property Studio, welcome to SuperTalk Outdoors, where we celebrate every single Monday at lunchtime the world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi, because we are the capital of the outdoors in America, and I love saying it. And we are literally rolling fast down the highway toward Christmas. It's amazing to me that time is already here. But man, do I love to be in the woods and outdoors this time of year. I can't get enough of it. And for me, it never was about actually pulling the trigger, although it's great to be able to have that opportunity. It's just being with my friends and family and, the sights and the cool mornings and all that comes with it, being in the woods and looking around and seeing activity. I totally love that. And I love spending it with my family. That is for sure. December 16th. Wow, it's amazing. Listen, today is a special edition of Super Talk Outdoors. It's going to be a special duck edition. And with that said, I'm going to invite into my guest for today, Houston Havens, who's head of the Waterfowl Program for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. And he's actually at a meeting, and we'll talk a little bit more about where he is in just a second. But before we go any further, let me welcome Houston back to the Super Talk Outdoors. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. Listen, when I went back, I was looking for something, and it was something you sent me many conversations ago, and it was involving the tagging program that you guys are involved in and why that's important and all that. But when I was looking for it, it hit me how many times you'd been on the show. I mean, you've been on the show a bunch of times, and I'm thrilled about it. But you've got a good handle on what's happening in the duck world. Yeah, there's actually a duck report that you just posted, and we'll come back to that in just a second. But where are you right now?
Well, right now I'm in Augusta, Georgia, in a hotel room. We're attending the Southeastern Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies conference this week, and it's usually in October, but hurricane-related weather, power in Augusta, they had to kick things down the road a little bit. But we're glad to be here with other like-minded agencies and individuals from the Southeast, kind of sharing ideas and what people are working on.
Listen, when I was president publisher of the Sun Herald, I had additional responsibilities at the time. Knight Ridder, the second largest newspaper company in America, 25,000 employees, incidentally. Own newspapers across the country, and the newspapers in Florida and Miami, I say Miami, Miami didn't report to me, but other newspapers in Florida did, reported to me. And I spent a lot of time, Columbus newspaper and the Macon newspaper in Georgia both reported to me. I'd spent a lot of time up there, but it's a real pretty area of the country, isn't it?
It is, yeah, right here on the Savannah River. I've never been here before, and so it's a unique experience for me.
That's cool. That's so cool. Listen, before we get into the nuts and bolts of the duck season, there's good and bad news as it relates to that. I mean, we tend to be kind of in that mode every year. Hopefully this year, as we get into the season, it'll be different, and there's a chance it might be. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. But have you been able to enjoy getting out yourself?
I have gotten in the deer woods a few times. I've not duck hunted yet. When I've had time to go, weather has not been great, or just opportunity hasn't really been there. But I'm certainly going to get my time in before long.
I love being in a stand. I'll get in a shooting house from time to time, but man, I'd much rather be out in the open, man. Leaning ladder stand. Just bought some more of them, incidentally. I love being in a situation where you got to be still, and you got, the whole situation, having deer really close to you and them not knowing that you're there. I'm always fascinated by that, but I love being in the woods. I love, and as I say on the show all the time, I love being in the woods with family. So hopefully we'll have another wonderful weekend this coming weekend. In fact, be leaving here shortly to head out again. So if you look at the season, one of the things that you and I talked about early on was there was some early weather models that were suggesting that we were going to see a different sort of setup in America this year as it relates to winter, and we still may see that. I mean, right now we had some cold weather come through, and we've had some warm weather settle in. but the weather patterns are different, especially in the middle of America. So north of here, we've had snow, we've had really cool, very cool conditions. Thad Miller from Open Season Properties sent me a video from Arkansas, and buddy, I've never seen so many ducks in this video. I mean, teal, lots of teal, and even a bunch of mallards on the lake in the background. But they're ducks, they're just not quite here yet. Is that basically the story?
Absolutely, it is. We had a decent opening weekend in Mississippi, and you and I had talked about that previously. But yeah, as far as national weather setup, which is what we've got to look at, we're not too worried about what the temperature here in Mississippi is, but as weather patterns are setting up, we are in better shape at this point in time than we have been the last couple of years. But like you said, it's still going to take a little more. Mid-latitude states are reporting decent numbers from aerial surveys and harvest reports, and so it's something to look forward to. It's what we're always kind of keeping an eye on as a gauge of where ducks are and how close they are to really getting here in big numbers. We've also got our plane in the air this week doing our aerial waterfowl survey, and so we'll try to get those estimates up and out to the public as soon as we can.
Well, if you want to, we'll go to your report, and then when we get done with that, we'll talk about other things duck related in your world. We as you and I discussed before, we had a good opening weekend. We killed a mallard and some gadwall and some wood ducks. Had a fun time. We had in fact, I mentioned that we had a group of 7 mallards, and we worked them, and right at the last minute they kind of flared out, and they mallards are picky, man. If they see something they don't like, they're not going to land. But even without that, we had a fun hunt. I did a lot of video, and I didn't even shoot to the last group of gadwalls came in. I just enjoyed video and watching everybody enjoy themselves. We were in a flooded break, and flooded timber. It's just such a beautiful sight, absolutely incredible. And they've had a couple of decent hunts since. Few gadwalls, lots of wood ducks, not many big ducks. We're just kind of looking for a few more big ducks to get our way. But after seeing that video from Thad, I mean, it makes you wonder what could be possible, because literally I've never seen so many birds. I'll send it to you. It's just an incredible video.
Yeah, we're certainly hoping that, it's always good to see bordering states, especially just a little bit to the north. We're keeping a close eye on Arkansas, and they'll be doing, I believe, maybe the same timing of aerial waterfowl surveys for their December round. And so it's all related, right? I mean, they've got to be just north of us before they're getting here. And so we're kind of setting expectations based on what's going on around us.
So let's when I read the report, the one thing that stands out, and we'll break it down if you want to. We'll get into the WMAs and talk about those that are doing well and maybe those that aren't doing as well. But one of the things that really stands out, and it's the thing that you and I have talked about many times, and that is we didn't get rain the way we hoped we'd get rain. So I say take the properties that I lease. Some of the breaks that were never dry have been dry the last 3 years, and even now, just barely have a little bit of water in them. That's kind of a big part of the story, isn't it?
It is for sure. And I was just getting real-time updates from our guys who are flying our survey right now, and that's what they're saying. We're in better shape for wetland habitat than we were at this time last year, of course, but that's not a very high mark to beat. We certainly don't want to have too many years like we had last year. But yeah, it's still a large portion of the habitat is those natural wetland areas. Not a whole lot of managed shallow water on the ag landscape in the Mississippi Delta yet. Still time, and we've got some rain in the forecast, but it's going to continue we're going to continue to need more as the season progresses for sure.
Yeah, what is very true is that the areas where I hunt is muddier now than I've seen in a long time. So that is the reality. Whereas last year it was pretty dusty. So that's a move in the right direction. And then again, with the cold temperatures north of us and the snow in some cases north of us, that's a good sign too. So, you and I've had this conversation before, but for the last several years, we've seen big population of ducks in February after the season was over. And the question is, well, some of these conditions that we're getting now, will they create that scenario for January instead of February? There's a good possibility that will happen.
Yeah, it is. And the February issue is a complex one. We certainly know that there's not the same amount of habitat after the duck season. There's a lot of ag water, especially in the Mississippi Delta, that's coming off really quickly, so they can get back to doing what they do on those acres, making a living with farming. And so that water comes off really early. There's no more hunting pressure during February, and so ducks, they're distributed a lot differently, but there's a whole lot less habitat as well. And that kind of plays into that. Sometimes may be real and sometimes a misconception of how many birds are around then.
When we come back on the other side, we'll continue our conversation with the Waterfowl Coordinator for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks here in Mississippi, my friend Houston Havens. And we'll break it down. What are we seeing at the WMAs? It's a great weekly report they do called Weekly Wing Beat, and we'll talk about some of the aspects of it. We'll see you after this break. Welcome back to SuperTalk Outdoors from the Open Season Property Studio. Listen, Open Season Properties, it's a full-service real estate company with a really strong team approach to how they do what they do. They make you your their highest priority, whether it's rural land sales, residential, or commercial properties. Open Season Properties markets and sells real estate in Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. And they are dedicated to this team, to a long-term client relationship and unwavering commitment to service. So go to openseasonproperties.com to learn more. We're thrilled to have them as a studio sponsor of SuperTalk Outdoors. Now let's get back to my friend Houston Havens. And I mentioned that they do this weekly report that's called the Weekly Wing Beat. You're getting information from a bunch of different sources in doing that. Talk about how this report comes together.
Yeah, it's a compilation of course, our wildlife management areas, because we have direct data, weekly that's coming in from hunting reports there, how many people are hunting, what the harvest has been. And people are always super interested in that, of course, whether it's a draw hunt that they have coming up or if they're just kind of trying to look at the weather and look at hunting reports to time vacation time or holidays, things like that. And so they're really popular from that regard. But like you said, we're also reaching out to private land properties, land managers, to see if they're seeing anything different or similar to what we're seeing on our WMAs. And then as best we can, trying to track weather patterns and give a little bit of information on that, what water levels are in the river systems. Just kind of trying to make a weekly update, one-stop shop for somebody who's looking to hunt waterfowl in Mississippi.
Yeah, what's interesting looking at this report? And I mean, it lists all the WMAs. People when they think about duck hunting, they think a lot about the Mississippi Delta, the areas near the Mississippi River and so on. I know that, certainly there are duck hunting opportunities beyond that, but they tend to think about that. They don't typically think about the Pascagoula River, one of the largest undammed waterways in the United States. And when you start looking, I know the duck hunting there has not really been great yet. But when you look at the total number of WMA visits, man, they're far outpacing all the other WMAs. I mean, that might surprise people. In this particular report, 155 WMA visits. And the next, it looks like Sunflower at 102 probably is the next competitor. And then maybe Mount Mason after that. So, people just don't, Pascagoula River is not on people's radar screens who aren't already hunting there.
Sure. Yeah. And, a lot of that is based on those being larger areas, a lot of acres out there, certainly a lot of, but that's what we want, right? We want a lot of public opportunity and those areas you mentioned, Sunflower WMA and the Pascagoula River offer pretty well open access hunting. If you have time to go and the season's open, people are getting after them. And, we assume that a lot of the harvest there on Pascagoula River is wood ducks, but that's an important, it's a state duck of Mississippi. It's an important waterfowl species for a large portion of the state. That's how I grew up hunting, mostly doing wood duck hunts. And so, yeah, really popular. I'm glad to see people that are interested in waterfowl hunting are still getting out and enjoying public lands.
Look, I'm looking down. One of the things y'all do is you look at the total number of WMA visits, and then you look at the harvest that has occurred, and then you do what is called an average harvest day. And I'm looking at the average harvest day, and it looks like Upper Sardis, not a lot of visits, but good success in terms of birds, did really well. And then I'm looking, looks like Muscadine Farms did really well. Tell me about Muscadine Farms.
Yeah, Muscadine it's an old catfish farm complex. The Corps of Engineers actually owns that property as part of their mitigation, and we have management authority on it. So a little bit different setup, kind of non-traditional. It's not, low swags in fields or breaks or anything. The catfish pond infrastructure is all still there, but yeah, it's a really popular area. At times is one of our better areas as far as waterfowl harvest. It's actually where we hold our youth waterfowl camp every year, just because of great facilities there, and we can get around and see a lot of different things on that area. Managed for a lot of diversity for waterfowl habitat as well in those different ponds.
And where is it located?
Just south of Greenville. Between Leroy Percy State Park and Leland, Mississippi.
So it's in a really good spot.
It is, yep, and it's a 2,000 or so acre area, so decent size for a Mississippi waterfowl managed area. And like I said, having all those individual ponds, there's a lot of different things that we can do. We don't have to do just one thing all the way across the place, but offer a lot of diverse habitat.
What's interesting is the average harvest day looks like averages 1. You want to see that number obviously much higher.
Sure.
But it's ironic that 1,019 WMA visits and the harvest was 1,022. So the average was 1
right.
per visit. What would you want that number to be?
Yeah, that's a good question. So when we're looking at public land harvest averages, 2 is good, 2 per person per day, and getting up around 3 is outstanding for public land. And that's not just in Mississippi. That's talking with our colleagues around the Mississippi Flyway and across the nation. Because if you think about it, I mean, there's a lot of people that are on those areas, varying skill levels of waterfowl hunters. Some people may be just trying to get a quick hunt in before they go to another obligation. So there's a lot of things that factor into. It's not necessarily just hardcore waterfowl hunters that are out there, from daylight until, the closing time on the area.
Data, man, data is so important when you're trying to understand where are the challenges, where are the opportunities, how are we doing as it compared to other states, how are we doing as it relates to trends, how are we doing it as it relates to the number of people who want to get out and do this at the WMAs. But it's incredibly informing, isn't it?
It is, both on the biological side, we try to, that's where our aerial surveys come in. We're trying to see what are the ducks telling us, about where they are and what they prefer, what they like to use throughout the winter. But a huge portion of that, I think back and we talk a lot about when we were in undergraduate school coming through, and we would hear about people management. That's going to be a big part of a wildlife biologist job, and it really doesn't resonate until you're out working with the public and trying to match resource concerns with what the public wants and needs from those resources.
Listen, when we get back on the other side, and we're not at the end of the segment yet, but when we get back on the other side, we'll actually go down the list a little bit, and you can point out some of the WMAs that stand out. But one of the things I was actually surprised by, Phil Bryant is a really large WMA. It's one of the newer ones. But I'm assuming there must not be any duck hunting there because only 2 visits.
So there is some duck hunting on Phil Bryant, and then part of it is also lumped in with the timber area on Mahana, and so some of the better waterfowl hunting opportunities are kind of lumped in there. So that's a little bit why those numbers are lower on Phil Bryant.
But yeah, because I happen to have some understanding of the topography of Phil Bryant, just because it's one of the newer ones and the effort that took place to get that.
Sure.
I would assume that it would have some great opportunities for some, hunting in the woods and maybe some flooded timber and whatever.
That's right. And yeah, it goes back to weather conditions as well. As we get more rainfall, that, the huntable area on that property in particular will increase.
So When you assess the number of visits and a lot of draw hunts and whatever you're trying to manage the pressure and all that. What does it feel like to you when you think about the number of people who are getting in the woods now, and the number of people who want to go duck hunting? Does it feel like it's going to be a busy year, or how does it compare?
It does feel like it's going to be a busy year. It probably, I would say, the feel of it, like you said, just getting out and working a few hunts, because there's a little more habitat, wetland habitat across the state, on public and private lands. It's the demand that we saw last year when everything was so dry. Pumped water was basically the only huntable water on public lands, and so it was extremely high participation during that time. But even now, yeah, we're still seeing areas are being used for sure. There's not a whole lot of vacant places that are being unhunted.
Well, I'm not surprised by it because, what a great way to introduce someone new to the outdoors, because it's such a social sport. Like if I get a chance, my son and my adopted son and my friends, they are all in. If they have a choice to go deer hunting or duck hunting, they're going to go duck hunting. And I used to be like that, but on a cold morning, man, I'll go, but I'd rather actually be in the woods deer hunting. I mean, just kind of my thing.
Sure.
But man, they are all in. Just the opportunity to be able to bring somebody new that's not done it before and let them experience it, and the social aspect of it, and you're there. You can get a lot of input from a lot of people. Some of that wanted and some of that not wanted, depending on how you're shooting. But it's a great way to introduce people to the outdoors. When we get back on the other side, we'll get Houston's thought on that, and we'll run through this list. Some of you may know a lot of these wildlife areas, and if you're thinking about going hunting, you can certainly go to the website and learn more about each of them. So anyway, when we come back, we'll continue our conversation on this special duck edition with Houston Havens. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to SuperTalk Outdoors from the Open Season Property Studio. Listen, are you looking to purchase the perfect piece of hunting property, upgrade your farm equipment, or have you been dreaming of owning your slice of heaven out in the country? Look no further than Mississippi Land Bank for your lot financing needs. For more than 100 years, farming families and landowners in North Mississippi have turned to Mississippi Land Bank for all kinds of financial solutions, whether it's for land, equipment, or livestock. For more information, visit mslandbank.com or go by and see one of their friendly staff at any of their offices. We're thrilled to have Mississippi Land Bank as one of the sponsors of SuperTalk Outdoors. Now let's get back to my friend Houston Havens, the Waterfowl Coordinator for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks. And we've just been talking about this weekly wing beat that they do. And it's great to see all of the WMAs listed, and you get some sense of the activity at each one of them, and also you get a sense of the average harvest, which is really good. But if you don't mind, let's we won't try to talk about every single one of them, but if you have something special that you want to note about one, you can certainly do that. You want to just kind of run through the list, starting with Bienville. Anything you want to say about that one?
Yeah, I would say a lot of the areas that are on the list. So let me back up. We include every WMA that had a reported harvest. So if it's one bird, just a few people that hunt that area, then we put it on the list. And really the reason for that is just some people don't know about these areas maybe that this kind of gives them a little bit of incentive to say, let me look at a map and check that out and see what's near me. Maybe I'm not near a intensively managed waterfowl area, but if there's an opportunity to go and have a wood duck hunt a little bit closer to my house than driving all the way to a more prominent area, then we want people to know about those. So that's what you see a lot of, a low number of WMA visits and then harvest. And kind of getting back to like we talked about earlier, the average harvest per day, as you're scanning down that list, anything over 2, what we consider to be good. And then anything that's in the 3 range is exceptional for public land.
So where's Bienville located?
It's part of the Bienville National Forest, a little bit southeast of the Jackson area. More of a deer and turkey type of complex there on that national forest. But I would imagine the waterfowl visits and harvest there, probably, low-lying slough areas, beaver ponds, things like that people have kind of, maybe even, during a squirrel or a turkey hunt or deer hunt, kind of found and decided to go back and check out during duck season. We hear a lot from people that are just opportunistic like that.
That's good. So Black Prairie, where is it located in?
Black Prairie is over in East Mississippi, east of Starkville. It's a more upland game type of area, some quail management, really good deer hunting there as well. And the waterfowl hunting there is kind of restricted to basically old cattle ponds. They're certainly not cattle on the WMA anymore, but just kind of permanent wetland type areas. But again, some opportunity there. Being close to Mississippi State, we get a lot of students that are getting out there and just seeing what the area has to offer, and so we'll hear from those guys a lot too that are doing some duck hunting there.
The next one on the list is canal section.
Yeah, canal section up in northeast Mississippi along the 10-time waterway. Some core mitigation areas, canal and divide section. But as you can see, that number ticks up quite a bit. There's a good bit of area, a lot of boat hunting up and down the 10-time waterway. And so, waterfowl hunting pretty popular in that part of the state. And it's, for people that are just hunting in the Mississippi Delta or maybe some of these interior rivers, may not know as much about that part of the state. But yeah, a lot of activity going on there as well.
Yeah, 81 WMA visits, which is high comparatively speaking. Right. Charlie Capps. I remember that name so well.
Yeah, Charlie Capps is one of our Delta areas, a relatively small area. It's managed as a limited draw hunt, and it does have standby opportunity. We implemented that for the first time last year, and so you don't necessarily have to be drawn. You can show up the day of a hunt and hope to get a spot that's filled by somebody not showing up. But really great area, great habitat on it. It's more of a willow break kind of style hunting. Lots of different options for you to hunt within a hunt unit there, but kind of standing in a willow line and hunting an opening in some young timber is kind of the setup there.
Divide section.
Yep, divide section. Kind of I would lump in with canal section as part of that system there. Not as many WMA visits or waterfowl hunting going on there, but kind of in that same general portion of the state.
The next one is Howard Miller.
Howard Miller is an extremely popular WMA in our South Delta portion of the state. It's also a limited draw hunt that has standby. Extremely popular. We usually tell people they'll call and ask, what's my chances of getting in on certain WMAs for if I don't have a draw. And we usually tell them, on a Howard Miller or Mahana or even Muscadine, maybe have a backup plan just in case, something kind of close by that you can run and hunt as open access if you don't get a spot on those areas. But yeah, so we do our managed hunts there, and harvest is usually pretty good throughout the season.
Yeah, you had 42 visits, 69 harvested, approaching 2, which you said is a good number at 1.64. So that's really good.
Yeah. So
John Bell Williams.
One thing I would say just about this time of year as well, if you go back to our first report that we put out, these numbers are a good bit higher as far as the average per person per day. We're kind of just in that what we would call a December lull for most waterfowl seasons, even when there are good numbers of birds here. After that first weekend push of hunting, and if we're not continually building up birds that are pushed down by weather, then things can kind of stall out a little bit. And I think that's what we're seeing in general on this report.
That's fine. John Bell Williams.
Yep, John Bell Williams is a kind of a subset area, I guess, of those northeast divide and canal section areas. So a smaller area there. That's why the WMA visits and harvest are a good bit lower than the others, but still some hunting opportunity. And as you can see there, over one bird per person. So they've been having some luck on those areas.
Lake George.
Lake George is another Delta area. Mitigation area along the levee system there. It is an area that will likely, kind of like we talked about with Phil Bryant, this area will increase as wetland habitat increases there, which is just going to be rainfall dependent. But there are some low-lying areas where people kind of know where water's going to be reliably, and then as we get more water throughout the winter, people will kind of spread out and have quite a bit more hunting probably by the end of the year.
The ever popular Mahana.
Mahana is definitely, I would say, the most popular week in and week out as far as hunting opportunity or hunting participation. It's a really diverse area. We've got it set up with impoundment hunting, and we've also got the large timber area there that's really popular as well. Throughout the year, harvest is generally pretty consistent. It's certainly going to be some slow times in most duck seasons, but even being in this kind of lull period, Mahana's still putting in numbers over 2 birds per person per hunt.
Wow, that is really awesome. Not surprised to hear it. We talk about it a lot. Next on the list is also another popular spot, Mount Mason.
Yep, Mount Mason, right there at the edge of the hills and where the hills and the Delta meet in the 4 Grenada counties. Pretty diverse area because of that. We've got Green Tree Reservoir where water levels are relatively low right now in the Green Tree, and that's intentional, trying to kind of manage our timber resources there and hold on to those in the long term. But those water levels will continue to increase. And then we've got the McIntyre Scatters portion, which is separate from the Green Tree area. Really popular waterfowl hunting area as well. Water levels there, again, are also low, but hopefully those river systems that run on each side of the scatters are going to help us out before the season's over.
We talked about Muscadine Farms, and the next one, you can pronounce it for me.
Yeah, the next one is Nanawaya. It's kind of over east central Mississippi. Not a real popular waterfowl area, but it does have a river system running through there, a few creeks, things like that. So at this point in the season, probably more of kind of creek wood duck hunting type of hunting going on there. And if we get some big rains and those systems flood out naturally, there could be quite a bit more hunting opportunity and waterfowl using that portion of the area.
Next one on the list is Okeechobee.
Okeechobee, yep, right there around Okeechobee Lake. So there's some waterfowl hunting that goes on the lake. That area in particular, the last few years, has kind of developed into a good blue-winged teal hunting spot. And in September, of course, you've got reliable water levels there on the lake, but seems like teal are using it a bit more in the last few years.
We talk a lot on this show about duck hunting, and people tend to think of duck hunting as being a rich man's sport. And certainly there are a lot of rich guys who own beautiful land. But the reality is there's some incredible duck hunting for public. And that's why I wanted to spend so much time on this list. When we come back on the other side, we'll work our way through the rest of the list and continue our conversation with Houston Havens. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to SuperTalk Outdoors from the Open Season Property Studio. Listen, no matter what kind of hunting you're into, whether you're looking for 40 acres or 4,000, if you're looking to buy land, you need someone you can trust. He's a hunting land hunter. Call Lake Pickle from Open Season Properties at 601-750-2487. Lake Pickle. We are thrilled to have Lake as one of the sponsors for SuperTalk Outdoors. Now back to my friend Houston Havens, the Waterfowl Coordinator for the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks here in Mississippi. We're spending a lot of time today in this special duck edition talking about the public land side of duck hunting. And if you've been hanging in there with us throughout the show, you see that Mississippi has done an incredible job of creating public land opportunities for duck hunters. So yeah, when we went to break, we were just getting to O'Keefe, and let's pick it up from there.
Yep, O'Keefe, up in a good part of the world, Quitman County. Really popular waterfowl hunting area. We've got really good diversity of habitat types to select from for waterfowl hunting, from flooded agriculture to moist soil impoundments, and also Green Tree Reservoir hunting there. And it's we get a lot of calls about it with people looking for. This area is one of those that's open 7 days a week now, so it's an opportunistic. When you have a chance to go and the season's open, you can go there. And so we do get a lot of interest in that area because of that.
Old River,
kind of similar to what we talked about with Pascagoula. Not any intensively managed waterfowl habitat there. Most of the hunting that goes on there is just opportunistic, maybe jump shooting wood ducks or hunting on a beaver pond, and mostly wood ducks are going to be harvested there.
We talked about Pascagoula River, super popular. And then next is another river that people may not think about too often is Pearl River.
Yep, Pearl River WMA right there off of the Ross Barnett Reservoir, and a portion of the reservoir actually is WMA. And so that area has some boat hunting popularity to it, going all the way up the river and even hunting in the mouth of the river there in the reservoir. And then we also have some youth hunts that go on Pearl River WMA. We do a limited draw on those, and so the people who are hunting there this season have already been selected through that process. But there's 3 youth impoundments there that are managed. We were doing some looking around at some infrastructure there a couple of weeks ago and had good bird numbers. Saw a few canvasbacks there. Those are always cool. We don't see a ton of canvasbacks typically in Mississippi, but they were there last week, and so hoping that some of those youth can get out on that area and have some good hunts, maybe their first hunt even.
Well, we talked a few minutes ago about the diversity that exists for Phil Bryant, and the next one is Red Creek.
Yep, Red Creek, another one down in South Mississippi, more kind of opportunistic, probably people that are out doing other activities, and maybe they're seeing wood ducks in a beaver pond or along creeks or river systems, and then going back after them. But again, those are duck hunters too, right? And we want all of them. It takes all kinds, and we want everybody who has an interest to be able to get out and find some public land areas where they can pursue that activity for sure.
Next on the list is Shiplin.
Yeah, Shiplin is our one area, or one of 2 areas, I guess, that we have inside the Mississippi River levee portions of, and so. That area really, the hunting popularity and the I guess success of hunting really depends on river levels at that point. There's some people that'll go in and actually hunt along the edge of the river, and then as water comes up and floods onto, kind of backwater floods into some low spots, scrub shrub type of hunting, and a little bit of boat hunting goes on there.
I used to do some of that, and that was fun, man.
Yeah,
fun.
Absolutely. It's a different kind of hunter for sure.
Yeah, fishing out of a boat. Have some fun stories to tell about that. Next one on the list is Sky Lake.
Yep, Sky Lake over Humphreys County. It's an area where we have some portions that are state-owned and some are Corps of Engineers, but all of it is open for public hunting. And so there's some managed impoundments there, some are rainfall dependent, and some we have pumping capabilities on. We've done some improvements on those over the last few years, and so habitat has really improved on that area. And then, of course, you have the main actual Sky Lake that some people will hunt as well.
The very popular sunflower.
Yep, Sunflower WMA. It's really popular area. There's several green tree reservoirs, and then what we call slough control areas where Forest Service closes off those water control structures. If we get rainfall, that area will have quite a bit of wetland habitat on it. But it's also, we've seen over the years that the Sunflower River, when it pulses up and gets onto Sunflower WMA, that's when birds really respond. And of course, hunters know about it as well. And so it becomes a super popular area when that happens.
Tuscumbia
up, we call it up in Tennessee because it nearby is, but up on the North Mississippi line. It is a draw hunt area, mostly rainfall dependent there as well, and so we'll see more hunting that goes on the draw portion when we get enough water to actually hold hunts there. But the Unit 1 that's open currently is just open access hunting, putting in on the river and boating into areas, and mostly what people are doing there currently.
So the rest of the list is Twin Oaks, Upper Sardis, Ward, Bayou, and William DeVinny. Listen, we almost finished the whole list, but we're out of time. But it's been a pleasure, my friend, to spend some time with you.
Absolutely. Enjoy it.
This has been Houston Havens, the Waterfowl Coordinator for the department. Have a great day, weekend. Stay safe, and we'll see you next week.